They said he was overreacting. Just another man making noise about property lines. But when you're the only black homeowner in a gated community that never wanted you there, every line matters. For months, they called his hand-built bridge community property. Then one morning, the roar of diesel engines shattered the quiet. Cement trucks, 3 of them, rolling straight over his creek, over his bridge. He didn't yell, didn't run outside, just watched from his porch, coffee in hand, as the first truck groaned over the planks. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of wet earth and something else, payback. Because this time, Trenton Vale was ready. The question wasn't if the bridge would break. It was who would break first. But first, please make sure to subscribe the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. Before the noise and the mud, Trenton Vale's world was quiet. He'd spent 3 years saving for this land, a small stretch of green tucked beyond the main road, where the air smelled like pine and the creek ran clear. It wasn't grand, but it was his. Every board of his porch, every plank of that little bridge, built by his own hands. He liked it that way. Simple, steady, private. When he moved in, a few neighbors waved politely. Most didn't. They said things like, "You sure you can afford this area?" Or, "We don't see many new faces around here." Always with a smile, never with warmth. Still, Trenton ignored the tone behind the words. He worked hard, kept to himself, paid his dues. Then came Judith Bramble, the HOA president, with a clipboard and a mission. She called his garden non-compliant, his fence too dark, and his bridge community property. Trenton kept the letters she left taped to his door, each one written in the same sharp cursive, each one signed with that neat little flourish under her name. He tried to reason with her once, explaining how the bridge wasn't public, how the land records proved it. She didn't care. Judith never did. To her, authority was ownership, and the HOA was her kingdom. So when construction started nearby, and cement trucks began cutting through his land, she didn't ask permission, she just sent them. Day after day, the ground shook with heavy tires and diesel fumes, tearing through the soil he'd tended. And somewhere between the 3rd and 4th truck, something inside Trenton changed. The man who once built to connect began to think about what it might mean to divide. The more Trenton tried to keep peace, the more they pushed. It started small, letters in his mailbox, friendly reminders about property codes that no one else seemed to follow. Then came the glances, the whispers at the community meetings. Every suggestion he made was brushed aside, every concern dismissed. Judith called him aggressive when he spoke up, uncooperative when he stayed silent. It was never about the bridge. It was about control, and the fact that a man like him dared to stand his ground in a neighborhood that still believed ownership came with a certain color. One morning, Trenton found tire tracks again, fresh ones, deep and wide. Mud splattered up the side of his fence. A small wooden sign he'd posted that read, "Private Property," was cracked clean in half. The air still carried the faint hum of diesel engines somewhere in the distance. That was when he knew Judith wasn't just ignoring him, she was daring him. He filed complaints. No one cared. The county clerk's office said it was a civil matter. The HOA board called it a misunderstanding. And when he tried to show the boundary maps, they told him to calm down. Everywhere he turned, he hit the same invisible wall, one built from politeness and power, the kind that smiled while it shut you out. So Trenton stopped arguing. He started watching, measuring. He tracked every tire mark, every truck route, every date and time. He began photographing the damage and saving the footage from his porch camera. Night after night, he sat under his porch light, eyes fixed on that bridge like a soldier guarding a border no one else believed in. And then came the storm. Thunder rolled across the valley, rain hammering the planks of the bridge until the creek swelled dark and angry. Trenton stayed awake, staring through the glass, heart pounding with every flash of lightning. Around midnight, he saw them, headlights slicing through the rain, moving too slow, too heavy. Another truck. Another trespass. It lurched toward the bridge, brakes squealing. For a moment, the world held still. The driver hesitated, then pressed on, wheels hissing against the wet wood. Trenton's hands tightened around his coffee mug. He could hear Judith's voice in his head, cold, clipped, condescending. "It's just a bridge, Mr. Vale. Nothing personal." But it was personal. It always had been. The next morning, he walked down to the creek in the fog, boots sinking into the soft earth. The boards were soaked, the nails rusting. Beneath the bridge, the ground had begun to give way. A slow, steady erosion he hadn't caused, but one he'd learned to understand. That was when an idea began to take shape. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. If they wanted to keep crossing his line, maybe it was time to show them what happened when the line finally disappeared. And as he turned back toward his porch, rain dripping from his jacket, a quiet resolve settled in his chest. The next truck that came through wouldn't just find a broken bridge, it would find a lesson. By dawn, the rain had thinned to a mist, but the ground still trembled. The sound came first, a grinding, guttural roar, as another cement truck crawled toward the creek. Trenton stood on his porch, silent, motionless, watching the diesel haze drift across his yard. He knew this truck. Same company, same route, same defiance. And behind it, just visible through the trees, Judith's SUV idled like a judge waiting for a verdict. The truck eased onto the bridge, its tires slick with mud. The wood groaned, bending beneath the weight. Every creak was a countdown. The driver gunned the engine, impatient to cross. Then came the sound, a sharp, cracking pop that echoed like a rifle shot. In an instant, the back end dropped. The bridge split clean down the center, the truck sinking nose first into the creek below. Mud erupted in a violent wave, swallowing the front tires, coating the windshield, drowning the engine's roar in choking silence. Steam hissed from the exhaust. From her SUV, Judith stumbled out, shouting, waving her clipboard like a shield. "This is vandalism," she cried, her voice shrill over the hiss of escaping air. But Trenton didn't answer. He just walked down the steps, boots sinking deep into the soft, wet ground. Every neighbor who had ignored him before now stood at their windows, phones pressed to the glass. The man they dismissed, the man they called angry, difficult, and out of place, wasn't yelling. He didn't have to. The bridge, his bridge, had spoken for him. The driver climbed out, dazed but unhurt. He muttered something about being told this was a public access road. Trenton didn't look at him. His eyes were fixed on Judith, standing pale against the gray morning, her authority crumbling as fast as the bridge beneath her trucks. For a moment, neither of them moved. Rain dripped from the broken planks, each drop landing like punctuation on a sentence that had been years in the making. Trenton finally spoke, voice low and steady. "Guess that line wasn't yours to cross after all." And as the last of the cement sank beneath the muddy water, Judith realized the real collapse wasn't the bridge. It was her power. When the county finally came out to assess the damage, Trenton didn't say much. The inspectors walked the property, measured, took photos, and confirmed what he'd known all along. The bridge, the creek, the land, every inch of it was his. Judith stood off to the side, arms crossed, silent. No clipboard this time. No orders to bark. Just the slow, sinking realization that her authority ended where his property began. The HOA tried to spin it, called it an unfortunate misunderstanding, offered half-hearted apologies through letters signed by people who'd never spoken to him before. But the neighborhood had already seen what happened. They'd watched how easily power turned into entitlement, how quiet defiance turned into justice. Some stopped pretending not to see him after that. Others avoided eye contact altogether. Trenton rebuilt the bridge, not because he needed to, but because he wanted to. Each nail he hammered back into place was a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just stands its ground. He knew the story would fade from gossip soon enough, replaced by new headlines, new distractions. But for those who witnessed it, something shifted. They couldn't unsee the way one woman's prejudice had nearly crushed a man's peace, and how the same man rebuilt it without raising his voice. In the end, Trenton didn't win by breaking the bridge. He won by proving it was never broken to begin with, only the people crossing it were. Because in neighborhoods like his, where lines are drawn with ink and bias, standing your ground isn't rebellion, it's survival. So the next time someone tells you to know your place, ask them whose map they're using and who drew the lines in the first place.